actually recording. These are some of the members of Project Hip Hop. Do you guys have anything you want to say before the show? Or I already got your face, dude. I already got your face.
Project
Not make it ready.
Project Hip Hop. Project Hip Hop. Kirk Franklin.
No, like I'm so ready. Like I'm amped. I want to go on stage. Like you don't know.
What are you guys gonna be doing tonight?
We're gonna perform a blacks and whites piece, and it's gonna be dope. It's gonna be so good. Like I don't know how to explain it. Cause I really want to go. I can't wait.
Are you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready. I've been ready for like 3 weeks. I may not have known the lines 3 weeks ago, but I was ready 3 weeks ago.
Well, I'm ready for you guys too. This is like my first
Me too.
I have something
Me too.
to say.
What do you have to say?
I have to say something real inspirational. So, we've all been working really hard right now, right? Super hard. And we're all stars. But we're aiming for the moon now. It ain't even about the flying balls of gas no more.
Red beam on the moon.
It's about getting
on the
space.
moon.
We're about to we're about to do really well. And if we don't get an applause, well, there is no if. We're gonna get an applause. We out.
I hope you guys enjoyed that. That was a little bit of the kids behind the scenes before the event. Dee didn't get a chance to see that. You guys know her as Farai, and this is D.Farai Williams McCall. Thank you for coming on.
Thank you for having me. How are you? Great.
Please have a seat. So I gotta say, when I found out about Project Hip Hop, it was by accident. Seriously, it was by accident. I was going to a dental appointment down Dudley, and I walked into the building, and the doors were open, but I'm like, okay, let me press the bell anyways. And what happened was I looked at Project Hip Hop, and I'm like, I got 15 minutes. You know, we try not to be late, but I'm like, I got 15 minutes. I ran upstairs into the office, and I got a chance to meet you.
Yes.
What a beautiful experience it was, because it turns out I've known you.
Yes.
We have mutual friends. So this was bound to happen.
Hip-hop stands for
Tell
Highways into
my
the
audience
Past,
about
History,
Project Hip Hop.
Organizing, and Power.
Okay.
Wow.
Well,
Project Hip Hop.
that is the aesthetic that we use. Hip hop being youth culture and urban culture, and the aesthetic of our young people from our community, created by us, for us. But hip hop is specifically the design of looking back at our history and things that we've done in the past, that essentially our young people are standing on the shoulders of those who have gone before them and really paved the way for us to be where we are today. And we feel like it is vitally important for them to understand that connection, so that there is this through line. There is, the idea of Sankofa, going back and looking at where we come from, so that we're moving forward with this information about who we are and where we come from.
Yeah, the history is very important.
Yes.
They always say if you don't know your history, you're doomed to repeat it.
Absolutely.
And unfortunately, the history of people of color isn't the best history that you want to repeat, except for us being able to progress.
Yes.
And the progression is what the kids need to know.
Today we did a flash mob. The theme of the flash mob was knowing yourself and being yourself.
Basically about social change. We want everybody to know their history and where they came from, and not just hear what you're hearing today, but to know exactly where it is that it came from.
Basically, this piece is just a way of showing all the struggles and all the hardship that we go through in our community. We take our real own life, personal experiences, and put it in the form of a flash mob.
Man, we went from slavery to resistance. We went from resistance to a real unity. Somehow our unity got broken up, and now we're in straight ignorance. We need to come back together as one and take this generation to places where we want to go. yourself. Let's be real. Don't conform to what you see in the streets or on TV. So know yourself, be yourself, free yourself. Let's be real. We take it Dudley Station back, y'all. Let's be
The kids of Project Hip Hop, what made you decide to want to do this? Because there's a bunch of youngsters there.
Yes, there are a bunch of young people there, amazing young people, gifted young people who need a safe container to explore who they are as individuals and explore the issues that are affecting them and their communities. So them, their family, their communities, and the world at large, actually. But I myself trained as a performing artist, and you know, I've had a little bit of experience in the world. I don't like to talk too much about things that I've done, but I have, you know, traveled to Russia, I've been on Broadway.
But those are things to be so proud about.
No, absolutely, absolutely.
And any young lady out there who looks like you should know about your accomplishments.
Yes,
so I want to know.
So you want to know?
Yes.
Okay, so I did study at the American Repertory Theater and the Moscow Theater Arts School, where I received my Master's of Fine Arts, and trained, and then after I graduated, I got an agent and I moved to New York, and the story is within 3 months I was on Broadway, which is true. So I made my debut in The Lion King on Broadway, and amazing, and I give thanks to the creator and my mother who had made her transition shortly before that, and I feel like I was absolutely standing on the shoulders of a giant, my mom, and that's what I did. So when I came back to Boston, I felt like I had been afforded so many different opportunities, learning experiences, professional experiences that helped cultivate me as a person who was able to walk and really define who I am, speak what I feel and not what I ought to say, be on my voice in that way, and so I wanted to give that back to my community.
Yes.
I told my executive director at ART when I left there, you know, everyone was, you know, going to LA or going to New York or going somewhere. And they said, so Denise, at the time I was using my given name, Denise, and well, what are you going to do? And I said, you know, I'm not sure where I'm going to go, but what I can tell you is I will always be a creative activist. Wherever I am, whether I'm flipping, you know, pancakes someplace, I will be making sure that I create change in my community. That's what's most important to me. So I recognized once I left there, even though I did continue with my professional career and go to Broadway, that my passion for social justice and using the arts to shift how we see ourselves and to shift what's going on in our communities and really be self-determining in that way was really important.
Okay.
So I found
briefly
Project
tell me,
Hip-Hop.
yes. Tell me about the event.
The event?
Yes, because we're going to roll some of the footage from the event too.
Okay.
Tell me how did this event with Deval Patrick happen?
Okay, so the governor's office reached out to us, having, you know, come to understand some of the work that we've done and having personal relationships with our executive director, Mariama Whitehammond, an amazing woman who's just taken Project Hip Hop, you know, even further than maybe it was even conceived of and thought of. She's done quite a bit. But they approached her and said, you know, we know of the work that you've done, and we would love it if we could collaborate, if your young people could participate in the governor's last Black History Month, which was just like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
And so, you know, John
what an
Borders.
Experience.
Yeah, it was an amazing experience.
Yes.
So John and Winelia Rivera from the governor's office, community relations office, reached out to us. And I'm the street theater director, artistic director with Project Hip Hop. And we do have two teams. I want to say we have a flash mob squad, which is an amazing squad.
The flash mobs, I've seen those. Those
yes,
are awesome.
Yes.
They happen out in Dudley also.
Yes, they happen at Dudley. So our main stage we consider to be Dudley or Ruggles.
Okay.
So we've done many flash mobs there. And the director, Wyatt Jackson, is an amazing friend, peer, colleague of mine for a long time, and he joined us last summer.
Wow.
And so there are 2 troupes. But the street theater team does more of the dramatic, theatrical, all of the things having to do with voice, the
Yes.
voice and speaking
Yes.
and theater.
Now, we're going to roll the footage. Do you want to just introduce what we're rolling? This is when the kids were actually being those giants.
Yes, so this piece was called Standing on the Shoulders of Giants. And essentially they were playing, it was more of a little bit different than we generally do street theater, but this was historical reenactment.
Yeah.
So some
Of living people.
Of living people.
Yes.
Yes. So some folks, so we therefore used a methodology called investigative theater, and a couple of our young people were able to actually sit down with the people that they were going to be meeting with, one of which was the governor, and we would just, we have time with the governor.
Wow.
You know, so it was great. And the young man, Trinidad Ramkisoon, played Governor Deval Patrick, and he was just amazing, having used this methodology, just gone in, asked him some questions, really investigated who he is so that when he played him, he gave a round, kind of well-rounded sense of who he was.
And the performance was awesome.
It was, I couldn't be more proud.
Incredible.
Yeah.
So, you guys, I want you to take a look at this footage. These are the students of Project Hip Hop.
Members.
The members.
Youth.
These are the youth
leaders
members
and members of Project Hip Hop.
of Project Hip Hop.
Yes.
Enjoy this.
From the West Indies shores, briefly touching down in Chicago, Illinois, before arriving at our final destination of Boston, Massachusetts. Hi again. Miss Pat here. I'm sorry to disturb you, but someone is playing the drums. And what did we just say? Must be someone in coach. But we here in Cabinet are not going to respond to those drums. No, sir. As a matter of fact, we don't even hear those drums. Repeat after me. I don't hear any drums.
I don't hear any drums.
I will not rebel.
I will not rebel.
I will not excel.
I will not excel.
All right. So you're going to have to suffer a few hundred years. But from all that pain will come a culture so complex. And with this little item here, you'll become millionaires. And this you...
I also received a Purple Heart among other Army awards. In 1961, I began what would be more than 18 years of public service in the House and Senate. During my time, I authored over 200 pieces of legislation, one being the Racial Imbalance Law, which helped clear the way for the desegregation of the Boston public schools. In the early 80s, while I was in the Senate, my son, Royal Jr., was in the House of Representatives, and my younger son, Bruce Bowen, who is the first African-American to become Boston Community Cheerleader. We all were in different...
Most don't know this, but I'm one of 18 national experts elected to the Science Advisory Board. I've written books, and after being appointed, became the first female elected sheriff of Suffolk County in the history of the Commonwealth. On December 12, 2012, our governor named me Secretary of Public Safety, where I now serve. Who am I? Excel.
Most don't know that I helped secure the initial funding for the planning and site design for the institution in which we sit right now. None other than the Roxbury Community College and the Reggie Lewis Track and Athletic Center. I was lead plaintiff in Owens versus Board of Education, which led to district representation of the school board. In 1972, I was elected to the House of Representatives. In 1974, I was the first African American elected to Massachusetts State Senate. While a state senator, I helped create State Office of Minority Woman Business Assistant. This organization promoted business development and ownership by women and people of color. Who am I? BLN. Excel.
I became the first African-American woman elected into the State House of Representatives, and I served there until 85. Let me tell you, besides the birth of my kids, that was one of the most sensational moments in my life in its entirety. Now that I'm retired, I love spending time with my 2 kids, my 4 grandkids, my 9 great-grandkids, and my 2 great-great-grandkids. I love hearing listening music and blues. Grand music gives me goose pimples, but not that rap stuff. They speak too fast for me to hear. I assume you've learned about Rosa Parks, Malcolm X, and Martin Luther King Jr. in school, right? But have you learned that I co-sponsored in making Massachusetts one of the first states to make MLK Day a holiday? I also served as chairwoman for the Committee on Federal Financial Assistance and was the founder of the Dukakis Center's World Class Housing Collaborative. So, who am I?
Doris. But there's more to Massachusetts than just Boston. Elected to state legislation in 1975, I represented the residents of the 12th Hampton District. I served in that post until 1995 when I resigned to accept an appointment from former President Bill Clinton to become the New England Special Projects Officer of the United States Housing Committee, and I'm presently the Vice Chair of the Massachusetts Democratic State Committee, and am still the only African-American member of the DNC from Massachusetts. Who am I?
Ray Jordan.
I'm a fighter, and I do that to impact all of the young people who think that the government doesn't look like them, does not advocate for them, does not fight for them, and that's what I do. So who am I?
I got a question.
Excuse me, from 1966 to 1972. And even before that, I was no rookie to the art of politics. I also served as Attorney General of Massachusetts, which was also not 1, but 2 terms, from 1962 to 1966. I was the first since the Reconstruction era. I ended an 80-year absence of African Americans in the U.S. Senate. President George W. Bush himself awarded me the Presidential Medal of Freedom. In the city, there's a schoolhouse and a federal court building named after me. Who am I? Excel.
Sir, I'm sorry. I was in a hurry. I've been out of town. I go to school in Massachusetts. I live here on the south side. I don't know, the fear changed and I just messed up. And he turned away from the road for just a second. And he looked at me, sized me up like people that work for the public do. You know, people like waitresses, they can nail you in an instant. And he turned back to the road and his expression softened. He said, just pass it along, son. Just pass it on. Very powerful gesture of grace. And it's a small thing, but it had such an impact on me. It made me want to be better. I talk about it all the time at the dinner table at home. What are the things we can do right now in our time to make a better life for those who come behind us? Douglas Wilder, the first black governor elected in America. He was elected in Virginia. And he came to my inauguration, wonderful guy. And he introduced me at an event, best introduction I've ever heard. And he talked about all the fuss that was made about him being the first black governor elected in America. And he said, you know what? Being the first doesn't mean a thing unless there's a second.
Amen.
And that
right there is about generational responsibility. Who am I?